93.3. Well, I'm not very excited to start today's show because it's such a terrible story. It happened not too long after you got done listening to the James show yesterday. This airplane that crashed into a helicopter. Terrible that there's absolutely no survivors, but man, I have all kinds of questions and few answers. And I feel like even now, it's only been 12 something hours since it happened. Shouldn't we already know more? Well, I don't know. So let's ask an aviation consultant. Ken Jenkins is kicking off the James show today. Terrible circumstances under which you're joining the show today, but your expertise is needed. Has there ever been an airplane that's crashed into a helicopter?
Not that I'm aware of. And certainly this is the worst accident that we've seen since 2001 with the number of fatalities. And it's been almost, my goodness, 24 years.
Wait, what was that? What was the 2001?
2001 accident was American Airlines Flight 587 in New York. A few months right after September 11th.
I remember that. Just like taking off from JFK and got hit with some wind or something.
That's right.
So I'm going to ask some obvious questions. What happened here? Is there any way this could be intentional, or is it just really terrible incompetence?
At this point, it looks like it was a terrible tragedy, obviously a terrible tragedy and an accident. The NTSB is holding a briefing even as we speak now, and they're talking about this is their first full day on scene, and their estimate of time for preliminary finding is 30 days. So I think we'll start to see more information over the next 30 days. As much as we'd like to have it now, it's going to take some time to determine what happened and how it happened.
Well, the NTSB is they're doing a press conference right now. They say that there's no evidence of mechanical failures. And, we have the radio recordings. It didn't seem like anything was going wrong on either side. Did we get any signal from either the helicopter or the plane that something was wrong before this happened?
Not that I've heard. However, what we've heard are tapes of the air traffic controllers. We haven't heard from the flight deck recorder or the cockpit voice recorder, and those certainly will be examined and definitely listened to as to any clues as to what might have happened in terms of the communication process between the tower and the aircraft.
Well, Ken Jenkins, you're an aviation consultant. I'm just a radio host, but I've been looking at the video, the overhead view of the flight path patterns. I'm a layman, I'll admit, but it looks like the helicopter was intentionally getting into the path of the plane.
Well, and I'm not going to speculate. I mean, I've seen the same video you have, and that's what I interpret. However, we don't know what was happening at the time, what was being said between air traffic controller and the helicopter, and then between the plane and the ATC. So I'm going to step back and let the NTSB do their job and then determine what caused this. What's happening right now that I think is also very important to look at is how the families are being talked about and being taken care of by the airline and the NTSB and information. The NTSB over the next few weeks will be providing briefings to the families every day about what happens at the accident site, and then those briefings will then take place with the media afterwards. So we'll start seeing updates pretty frequently here coming in the next few days.
Well, wouldn't we know that if some rules were broken, I'm familiar with, I'm sure this isn't normal knowledge, but the upside down wedding cake system that they have to make sure that some of these collisions don't happen. Do we know if someone broke the rules about airspace?
And that's what's being examined now, and we don't know that.
Oh, you haven't been able to look at.
What we're hearing right now is everything seemed pretty normal in terms of operations, but obviously something abnormal took place. So what is that and what caused that? That's what's going to be examined.
What are the rules about flying in flight paths like that? Do military helicopters get an exception that the rest of us don't have to follow or something?
You're beyond my area of expertise for that. I'm more on the humanitarian side of the response. So I know just enough to be dangerous in terms of the accident aspect, more on the how people are taken care of once the event occurs and what happens after that, post that.
So we have no survivors here. That's not a shock. Were they expecting maybe a miracle survivor in a situation like this, or was it pretty hopeless from the get-go?
There's always hope that there'll be survivors. I think it was probably known for those that were responding on scene very quickly that there weren't going to be any survivors. Now the process of what happens now is the bodies being recovered from the disaster mortuary operations response team, and then those loved ones being identified and then repatriated to their loved ones for burial. And that process can take days and weeks depending on the condition of the bodies.
Oh, I would not like to have that job, Ken Jenkins.
Neither would I, sir.
Someone's got to do it, though. You can't just let them sit out there in the swamp or whatever. Well, this is terrible stuff. On what timetable you expect about 30 days we'll have some answers?
Well, the NTSB had said in their preliminary briefing in the first few minutes that I heard that they anticipate preliminary preliminary report at 30 days, and then a complete. They didn't give a final deadline for when the complete report would be. Would be completed, but they expected a preliminary report in 30 days.
They haven't recovered the black boxes yet. Do they have like a transponder on them or something?
They do. However, I don't think there's a problem with the aircraft broke into three pieces, and I haven't heard anything about their not being able to find the black boxes, so that might be covered in their briefing today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ken Jenkins. I appreciate your expertise on this.
You're welcome, sir. Nice speaking with you.
Thank you. Man, some of the people on the plane, they were showing some videos of one of the girls in her ice skating routine just a couple weeks ago. She's in her 20s. Didn't think she was going on her last trip there, did she? Some real sobering stuff. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, I'm going to ask you, without getting political, can we just start asking some basic questions here? Because what I saw, it looked intentional. If you were flying the helicopter and you're like, I'm going to try and hit this plane, that's exactly what you would do. Now, I don't know anything. I've only ridden in a helicopter twice. I don't even know what all the little gadgets are called. But it's either that or just an incredible level of human error. Even if this is like a training mission and you're a trainee, wouldn't you keep them? This doesn't seem right. This seems like something that in 50 years or something, when I'm all gray-headed in hospice, they're going to be like, hey, the new president's going to make public the files from the crash. But it just seems so wild because you have never seen in your life a helicopter and an airplane crash in the air like this. This has never happened before. And also, does this make you a little bit more nervous about flying? Because it certainly looked preventable. All right, let's talk about it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey, sports fans, I know you're going to be watching the big game. Why don't you get a little money off of the big game? James Parker here for the Prize Picks app, and they're doing one of their specials again for the big game. Patrick Mahomes has his statistic listed at 0.5 yards. So if you pick more on that, all Patrick Mahomes has to do is pass for 1 yard. He may have a terrible game. He may have the worst game of his entire career. But do you think he'll get more than 1 yard? And then all you have to do is to fill out your lineup. It's 2 to 6 players. And so if you just want to pick one more guy, more or less on one of his statistics, you can turn the Super Bowl into a little bit of cash for you. If you want to go for the big prizes, you can get a lineup of 6 guys. Just choose more or less on some statistics, and you can see your cash winnings go up to 1,000 times your play. So check it out. Do it with my money. Download the Prize Picks app with your first play. If you use promo code WBAP, you get $50 in promo cash to play with. Will Saquon Barkley run for more than 112.5 yards? Will Jalen Hurts pass for more than 215 yards? Pick more or less, 2 to 6 people. Make some money on it. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If I sound a little uneasy today, it's because I have some cognitive dissonance going in my head. Yeah, I'm told that this is incompetence, the first airplane helicopter crash in the history of aviation that I'm aware of. That's according to my first guest, who's literally an aviation expert, Ken Jenkins. But I was trying to look that up when this happened last night. I was like, I don't think I've ever covered one of these before. And granted, that's, an anecdotal experience, but I couldn't find one. So it was confirmed in the first segment. And that makes it even worse. This is why I have cognitive dissonance in my head. There's no way that was an accident. You telling me that was an accident? Because the flight paths, the video, the rare nature, just the astronomical odds that this could ever happen in the first place, the rules that are in place about, hey, man, why don't you not fly your helicopter where planes are taking off and landing? Like they didn't have that rule already in place. Of course they did. So this stretches credulity. This is like the farthest fringe of my cognitive dissonance, because this looked intentional. This looked deliberate. If you were a guy that was trying to take out an airplane with your helicopter, you wouldn't have flown one thing different. But I also, if you can hear it, I'm very unsure, because I know right between Jack and squat about aviation. 800-288-9227. Let's try and get some help from some of these callers here. And y'all must be good, because Garrett doesn't usually put people through this easy. Y'all must be a bunch of good callers. Howard in the Colony. Help me out here. What do you know I don't?
Okay, well, I'm going to help you out here. A couple of things. I worked on the medevac crew up in Washington State.
Slow down. You talk really fast. Are you a Yankee or something?
No, I'm a Texan.
Okay, well, you're just excited. Slow down.
It's okay. Yes, sir. I was part of a medevac crew back in the 80s in Washington State. I trained some of the crew in the back on the night vision goggles. So when you're talking about wearing night vision and that kind of thing, I do have some expertise there.
Cool.
But we flew with a lot of civilian traffic, because we were flying civilian patients up in Seattle, and there's a lot of traffic out of that SeaTac airport. And I can tell you, the planes, we are sitting ducks for those planes. They're coming in, they're on approach. They have nav aids that we don't have. Now, like I said, I was in a Huey, not a Blackhawk. But a couple of things. One of them, from what I understand, they only had 3 people in the Blackhawk.
Is that standard, or is that too few?
That's too few, because normally you have 4 in the back, or 2 in the back, a crew of 4. So the 2 in the back, one will clear the right side of the aircraft and the other the left.
Well, see, Howard, this is things I need to know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
What they need 4 dudes? They only need 2 guys to run Airwolf. What do you need 4 guys for?
A helicopter is a little different, because when you're landing in confined spaces, the pilots cannot see behind them.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No,
they need to have the eyes.
Keep going. Teach me more, Howard. What else?
I'm going to teach you more. The other thing is, if they were wearing their night vision goggles, that's like looking through 2 toilet paper tubes on each eye. You have very little peripheral vision, number one. Number 2 is they strap into the visor part of your helmet. So it's almost like wearing a ball cap that's pulled down onto your eyebrows. So you can't see up. Okay. If the plane is descending and the plane has a windshield that's up high, planes normally don't see down very well, and helicopters don't see up, especially with those night vision goggles on. So once that plane made the turn to correct the runway, it probably got busy in that cockpit of the American Airlines plane, and they were probably trying to capture the glide slope. And when they're in there and they're busy and they're making that turn, the helicopter probably never saw them coming. I mean, it was because they couldn't see. And if the crew member was on the other side of the aircraft, he probably never saw it.
Okay,
coming.
so basic question here. Again, I know this probably sounds stupid to you, but a lot of people are thinking it. They don't have, like you see on the TV, a radar with like the dot that's coming at you like beep, 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 and it's getting closer and closer, and you're like, hey, maybe we should scoot out of the way?
Well, I was in a Huey, so we definitely didn't have that.
What?
But I can tell you the military aircraft, if it was equipped with a TCAS system, and I don't know if you discussed that yet.
I don't know what that is.
A TCAS, what it does is it detects traffic around you. Military helicopters, if they had that, they would probably have it off. They would probably very rarely use it because they fly in close formations. So you don't want that going off in your helmet every 15 seconds because you have somebody flying beside you.
All right, real quick, Howard, what are the rules about flying around a plane's flight path? You know, they have these flight paths registered.
Correct, they do. And the air traffic controller is responsible for obviously the traffic, but when a plane is capturing the glide slope, it should have been the controller's responsibility, in my opinion, to make sure those aircraft are clear.
That's exactly my next question. What culpability does the air traffic controller play in this?
Well, from my understanding, they were also on two different frequencies because they had one on the VHF military frequency. And I don't know if the air traffic controller had actually switched to that frequency to say, watch for the American Airlines flight, because they said that the military helicopter had never responded back to the tower. So I think when he's probably saw it, he may have transmitted on the wrong frequency. Now, that's my opinion, complete speculation. Okay. I don't know for sure. But, flying up in the Seattle area, we've been up there before flying patients into Harborview, and we've had an aircraft come down on us before where we saw the wingtip light. And we didn't realize it. The plane didn't realize it, but it went over the top of us, probably about 400 or 500 feet. But it was close enough to where we had to file a near miss.
All right. Howard, I appreciate your expertise. I'm going to talk to some more experts. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Good day.
Right, good stuff. Jay, Mineral Wells, you know more about this than I do, I imagine. Help me out.
Well, it's Reagan's a very difficult airport. Not very difficult, but getting in and out you have to pay attention. The thing that stood out to me is the American Airlines airplane, the Eagle airplane, regional jet, was originally on an approach apparently to runway 119, that's north-south, and runway 33 points, obviously 330 degrees, so about 30 degrees off north. So the winds were probably from the north. So when he was on final for his approach into 1, the controller asked him to circle to land on runway 33 so they could get more traffic in to land. So you go from a stabilized approach to now you got to turn out and you got to acquire the runway 33. You got to reconfigure your nav equipment to put the approach to 33 in. So they are really busy. And the runway is very short. So, while bigger airplanes can land there, it's a tedious approach. These guys are concentrating on, are we going to be able to land? Are we light enough that we can stop? We got to get this programmed in. They're doing all these things at a low altitude. And so rather than saying no, they accepted the clearance and started turning to the right and then getting aligned on runway 33. The helicopters flying, as I understand it, VFR, visual flight rules.
I don't know what that means.
Visual flight rules means he's not relying on his instruments to fly.
Okay. Thank you.
That's visual flight rules. And so he was at a very low altitude. The contact happened at about 300 feet. So he's flying very low altitude and flying down what appears to be the river, which would be very common that they would fly down the river at low altitude, not expecting to have any traffic because they expected the traffic to be on approach to runway 1. They weren't expecting an aircraft to be on approach to runway 33 because that wasn't the primary runway that they were having traffic to.
So this runway 33 looks a lot shorter.
It is. It's very short. So these guys are trying to determine, can we land? Apparently they thought they were light enough they could land and stop on it, but it's still short. So you got to get. It's a lot different than landing on a long runway. You got some room for error.
All right, Jay, I'm out of time for this segment. Real quick, I'm not saying you got to blame somebody, but is this the air traffic controller's fault? Is this the pilot's fault? Who deserves most of the blame?
At this point, I got to say the air traffic controller, because you got to
okay.
Give some heads up for traffic that for everybody to look and make sure they can clear.
Noted. All right, Jay, I got to run, bud. Thank you very much. That's Jay in Mineral Wells. Two great calls to start off with this terrible story, but this is what we need. We need some expertise. We have a hive mind. There's tens of thousands of people listening, and some of y'all know more than the rest of us about this stuff. So thank you very much for your help. If you want to jump in, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, special guest Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who's going to talk about what's going on here in Texas with politics, and we will continue with the plane crash in D.C. coming up on the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Coming up in just a second, Alan West is going to be joining us. He's right now the chairman of the Dallas GOP and also from the ACLJ. But we'll continue talking about the plane crash after that. We've already had some good callers, and I really appreciate you people coming through with your expertise on this subject. Really appreciate it. Also want to let you know that tomorrow is going to be a special show. I'll be live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And then also, what time are we talking to Jarrett? Is that the 3:30 guest? 3:35? Yeah, 3:35. Do you know the name Jarrett Reddick? Because I know you know his work. Let's see here. He's the lead singer of a little band called Bowling for Soup. Yeah, Dallas Legends Bowling for Soup. He also did the Phineas and Ferb theme song with the band. He is the voice of Chuck E. Cheese, and I had to hear him at about 18 birthday parties when my kids were younger. Like, what else does this guy do? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow at 3:35, catching up with a Dallas legend. All right, now time for my guest, Alan West, coming back on the James Show. Thank you very much for coming back on.
Always a pleasure to be with you, James. Thank you.
All right, I want you to keep an eye on Austin for us, because I'm reading rumors that the new House rules were written by a Democrat lawyer. Is that the rumor mill, or is that true?
No, it's absolutely true.
Really?
When you go down, you look at the initials at the bottom of the legislation for the House rules. They are his initials, and this gentleman was a lead lawyer for the Obama administration. And you look at his voting record; he has been a hard Democrat the entire time. So that's the person who wrote the rules for the Republican majority of 88 to 62 in the Texas State House.
How does this keep happening? How do Democrats keep having levers of power in a state government that's supposed to be 100% Team Red?
Because you have very weak Republicans. I call them political traitors and cowards. They won't stand up. This is a state, the state of Texas, in this last election cycle, Donald Trump won by 15 percentage points. 12 out of 14 of the Rio Grande Valley counties went red. Ted Cruz won by 10 percentage points. So why do we have Republicans that feel they need to power share with Democrats and kowtow to them? And so I think it's the Austin lobby. I think it is organizations like the Association for Republicans of Texas, which is headed by Joe Strauss, who was the first person to start this thing about going over and get Democrat support to be Texas House Speaker.
Barf. All right. I'm also seeing that the school choice legislation that we may all be hoping for may not be the same as the school choice legislation we get.
Yeah, the thing is that we need to understand that you need to afford to parental rights and parental choice to be able to choose what is best. And so there are a lot of people here on the ground, a lot of grassroots activists in the field of education that don't like what seems to be coming out. And furthermore, with what's going on in the Texas State House, I don't even think it will get the light of day, because that's where it died last time.
What rumors are going around that I haven't heard yet that you can tell us first?
I don't deal in rumors. I try to deal in facts, and I want to make sure that people understand what is going on. But when you understand, you see these Republicans, saying that they voted to ban Democrat chairs. What they really did was they mandated that all of the vice chair positions in the Texas State House have to be Democrats who can't power sharing. And all of a sudden, Democrats in these vice chair positions are going to get an additional $4,000, which has never been the case before. So this is that quid pro quo. When 36 Republicans go over and get 49 Democrats to join with them so that they can have a quote-unquote Speaker of the House, guess what? Those Democrats are going to ask for something.
Your thoughts on how the nomination and then confirmation process is going in D.C. So far, there hasn't been anyone who's been roadblocked out of the job. Is Trump going to get all of his appointees through the Senate?
Well, he should. I mean, we have the control of the Senate, 53 to 47. Unfortunately, you saw what happened with Pete Hegseth, where you had 3 defections of Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and Mitch McConnell, so that the vice president had to come down and break the tie. But I think that maybe with Kash Patel, that'll happen again. Maybe with RFK Jr., that'll happen again. But he'll get his cabinet filled. But just think about this, James. What if we didn't have that majority in the Senate? What if it was Chuck Schumer still in charge of the Senate?
Yeah, we'd get a whole lot more millies and backstabbers in office, I imagine. And probably look more like Austin, wouldn't it?
It would.
All right. I have a lot of small R Republicans, people who feel sympathetic toward the Republican Party, Republican cause. They vote Republicans, but they don't actually join the Republican Party. They don't actually go to meetings or events or do something. How do they get involved and become like a part of their local organization?
Yeah, sure. I would say go to our website, which is the Dallas County Republican Party website, dcrp.org, I believe that is. Look it up and just stay informed and come out to our meetings. This past Monday night, we had our monthly county executive committee meeting, and it was a great turnout as far as the precinct chairs. We got to get a lot of people to fill these precinct chair positions because that's how you really win races with the grassroots and getting people out to vote. That's going to be important as we have these municipal level elections coming up here in the first Tuesday of May.
Is there anything new going down with the American Center for Law and Justice?
Well, it's the American Constitutional Rights Union.
Oh, I got the wrong one. Sorry.
No big deal. It's American Constitutional Rights Union, and yes, we're very involved with a couple of things. We want to make sure that when we see blue county sheriffs in red states, like what you have here in Texas, that they are doing what they're supposed to do as enforcing the law when you look at this issue of illegal immigration. And then the other thing, we want to continue to keep pressure on making sure that we right size our military and get it going on the right path away from all this CRT, DEI, and these other things. And so the National Defense Authorization process will be starting up probably about 60 days or so. So we'll probably be involved in that.
Allen West, thank you very much for your time on the James Show. Appreciate it, sir.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, James.
Former congressman, former lieutenant colonel, current GOP chair in Dallas County, Allen West. Coming up next, if you have some thoughts, some expertise on this plane crash, I mean, the historic nature of it just has me scratching my head. You have never seen in your life a plane crash with a helicopter. Is this just an incredible level of human error? Was this intentional? If it was intentional, was it just like some suicidal guy? Or was it like Muslim terrorism, like a Nadal Hassan or the New Orleans guy? I don't know. Let's talk about it. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we're not having a whole lot of fun today, but we're not supposed to at a time like this. It's the first time in your life you've seen a airplane run into a helicopter in the middle of the sky. That's bizarre. And just on that alone, it's suspicious. So far, we're being told no foul play is suspected, and this is all very preliminary. We're not even 24 hours into this. This just happened last night. But we'll have more fun tomorrow. I'll be at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. It'll be in a nice setting. People around me will be day drinking. We're going to have Jarrett from Bowling for Soup on. In fact, Lauren sent me a tweet on the break there. She says, not related to the plane crash, but I'm excited to hear about Bowling for Soup. Their drummer was my neighbor when I bought my first house. Oh, yeah. All they've been doing since then is just killing it all over the place. But this is one of the rare times when you tell me what's going on. So many other these topics that we do, I say, well, I've been doing radio for 22 years and I've been studying this, and let me tell you what's really going on. This one, I don't know. This is beyond my scope of expertise. Sylvia in Garland, what do you think's going on?
Well, I was listening to the Bongino show before you, and I also watched Fox News. Now, on Fox News earlier, before I heard later on Bongino, an Army pilot talking about this training flight, the actual things that they put on the screen was, okay, the CRJ in this is the airliner. Pat 25 is the helicopter. It says, can you, to the CRJ, the air traffic controller, can you take runway 33? Yeah, we can do 33. Runway 33 clear to land. Do you have the CRJ in sight? They asked the helicopter. Pat 25 responds, yes, has aircraft. Request visual separation. They don't get the visual separation. The next thing they get is Pat 25 passed behind the CRJ. Then the air traffic controller says, did you see that? Which maybe is a reference to the flash of the crash. Now, your person calling from Mineral Wells about the night vision goggle has already explained how hard it is to differentiate things. We're used to FAA having the blinking green is on the right-hand side of the craft and the blinking red is on the left hand, and that's how you can tell whether a craft is coming towards you or going away from you.
Yeah, like in boats.
And, And there was an aircraft leaving the area right where that helicopter was, as well as this one that the controller turned into the helicopter's path. The Army pilot on Bongino's show said this is a common route traveled. Their ceiling is 200 feet. So why the collision occurred up at 300 to 400 feet is going to be a question to come up. Why the air traffic controller didn't ask the helicopter to check their altitude is going to be a question to come up. But she said, a pilot in a Black Hawk, that a gust of wind can pop you up 100 feet like a little bump in the road to a car. It's no big deal to bump you up. Like your Mineral Wells caller said, they air traffic control turned that aircraft, that airliner, into the Army helicopter pilot's flight path down the river, which was a routine training. This particular one was a night vision training recertification. So everyone in there was familiar with this. This was something they do, but they were low enough to the ground. They most likely would have had their anti-collision turned down or turned off because they would be getting all kinds of squawks from ground clutter. Now, there was another call into Bongino's show of a guy from San Diego who said he personally had to do the body cleanup after, in the 1970s, a helicopter and an airplane collided midair over a neighborhood and rained down debris on all of the houses in the neighborhood. So this has happened before. It's just not very common because usually the helicopters are flying low. And so I really do believe your guy from Mineral Wells had it pegged that when they redirected that plane from runway 1 to runway 3, they put it seconds closer to the helicopter. And the helicopter, the Army pilot that talked to Bongino, she said that plane would have been coming down from above him, and he may have had a visual on the plane that had just taken off and thought that was the plane they were telling him to get behind.
Okay, so
without knowing this other one is coming in on top of him.
Sylvia, you did a good job. You could be a reporter because she's weaving together info. 5 points because she weaved together info from Fox News, the TV broadcast, with Bongino, with my caller from Mineral Wells in the second segment. So she's kind of weaving this together like just a loom from 3 different shows here, and stretched it into one beautiful narrative. Well done, Sylvia. Maybe you can fill in for me next time I'm out. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Simple Minds is on tour. They're going to be here at the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory in Irvine June 1st. It's one of the concerts we have a contest for. Text the word ALIVE to 800-288-9227. It'll be Simple Minds, Soft Cell, and Modern English. Text the word ALIVE to 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk to another aviation expert, Jay Ratliff, on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, not a very exciting day today. We're dealing with a horrible tragedy here, and it gets worse. Sometimes I feel like I damage my brain sitting here in front of the news for 3 straight hours and, a couple hours worth of prep beforehand. I'm just watching the cable news channels. They keep now flashing up pictures of the victims, and they're young, and they're like 20, and they're in great shape, and they all look happy, and they're really accomplished and have their whole lives in front of them, and boom, it's just gone. It's just gone because someone either made a mistake. I mean, it kind of looks intentional to me, but I can admit that I don't know anything about this. That's what it looks like to the layman who has to observe this. And, like if I died, be sad, but don't be that sad. I got to, fall in love and get married and start a family and raise kids, and they're not all raised yet. But, I got to go through most of life's experiences. These people that died in their 20s, just everything was taken from them. So what do we know about the crash? Let's talk to an aviation expert. Jay Ratliff's on the James Show. Now, Jay, first things first, talk me out of believing this was intentional.
Yeah, it was not. Anytime we have an accident, the FBI immediately will get involved to the point we're trying to see whether or not it was attack or anything of a questionable issue. And if there is, the entire site is locked down because it then becomes a crime scene. And we were able to determine pretty quick, not me, but the officials, that this did not appear to be a situation, a terrorist attack or anything that was intentional, anything like that. So now we're left with, okay, on a clear day with 10 miles visibility, how do we have 2 aircraft occupying the same spot at the same time? And you've got the possibilities go from one end of the room to the other, and it's an investigation. It's going to take 8 months, 10 months, or a year for the National Transportation Safety Board to come up with their final findings on it as far as what the cause or contributing causes were. Many times there's more than one cause with an accident. So we'll have to wait and see. And even though it's kind of asinine to say, this is what happened, we can't do that. But, there are some things that are curious. And one of the things that we know is there's this corridor that is along the Potomac River that is place for the visual flights for helicopters. And it's a well-known corridor that is used often. We've got military airplanes, obviously, of all kinds, flying all over our nation's capital for all the obvious reasons. And most of the time, the helicopters in this particular corridor that's designated as a visual flight rule or a VFR area, it's 200 feet. So helicopters and what have you, 200 feet and under is where they're at. Now, when I heard the crash took place, one of the things that kind of caught my ear was the flight radar suggests that it happened at an altitude of 400 feet.
Right.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I'm correct in my thinking, and at my age, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, I thought it was 200 feet. And if it is 200 feet there, why was that helicopter at a higher altitude? So the investigation will look at that and a bunch of other things. The other thing that I found very concerning was that the air traffic control was in contact with, obviously, the arriving American Airlines regional jet. It was also in contact with military aircraft. And there was a point in time where air traffic control contacted the Blackbird and told the helicopter pilots, asked if they had visual confirmation as far as the location of the regional jet that was on final approach. It happened moments before impact when they collided. And I'm thinking, why are we asking at that moment a question that's going to generate an answer for us to then to give evasive instructions as far as a command on what to do? If time is of the essence, we're wasting a lot of time here. So I'm not suggesting it's air traffic control's fault. I'm just curious, and that's just a snippet that we heard. So there's going to be a lot of things before that we're not aware of, but it was curious to me that there wasn't more urgency in the communication. So we'll have to wait and see exactly, where things are at. And, the other thing is that as the air traffic control is talking to the military, they're on one frequency, and when they talk to the commercial pilots, they're on a different frequency. So the pilots don't really have the opportunity to overhear any of the conversations that might be going on that might actually pertain to the aircraft that they're on. So just a lot of questions here, and it's going to take a considerable amount of time for the answers to come forth. The NTSB is an all-star team. They are the reason it's been 16 years since our last accident involving a crash, because you have to go back to February of 2009, the Colgan air crash, the last time I had to go on the air and talk about this type of situation here in the United States. And it's something that, thankfully, it's a very, very rare type of thing. So we'll find out what happened. Was it a mechanical situation with one of the two aircraft that caused the crew to, not be able to do what they needed to do at a critical moment? Was one of the pilots impacted by a medical episode? There's a lot of things we don't know. So the answers will come forward. My biggest fear, and I hope I'm wrong, is that we find out it was something that was incredibly easy to prevent. And that would be absolutely tragic if that turns out to be the case.
Jay Ratliff, thank you very much. I appreciate your time on the James Show and your expertise.
Well, my pleasure.
Sad stuff. Sorry, I'm getting bummed out. They keep showing the figure skaters and the young people, and then Nancy Kerrigan had like a response because apparently the skating community, figure skating community is a pretty tight bunch, and some ladies from the Boston Skate Club, apparently she knew, and so now you got to see Nancy Kerrigan crying. This is terrible. 800-288-9227 if you have anything to add to this plane crash that happened in D.C., plane/helicopter crash in D.C. I am sort of calming down in the fact that I've had a few aviation experts say, no, this doesn't look deliberate, because, look, that would be another terror attack right after the New Orleans one, right after, another in a long line. But I guess that would be worse than it just being human error. I don't know. 800-288-9227. Your thoughts are welcome on the James Show. Coming up, Trump has threatened to cancel the visas of students who participated in pro-Hamas protests. Some people think that's the right thing to do. Some people think that's the fascist thing to do. What do you think? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, this is a headline that I can hold like two notions about it at the same time. Almost a form of double think, but it's more complimentary than that. Trump signs an executive order, and I don't know if this is one of those wish list things or it actually can be enacted, and that's the law of the land going forward. But the proposal is to revoke the visas of those who were here on a student visa and they were participating in pro-Hamas protests last year. And look, I feel weird about this one because I'm like, well, duh, that is a no-brainer and a half. Someone running around, blocking traffic, flying the flag of a terrorist, celebrating the October 7th massacre. Yeah, I don't think we should be importing those people and settling them in mass numbers. And then I go read the comments, and there's a lot of people who disagree with me, and I have a hard time reminding myself of that. Everyone doesn't see the world the way I do. No, actually, some people think that's, you guessed it, literally Hitler. Yay! Secret word of the day, Hitler. Got it. Oh, everything I do is Hitler. And look, they're really wearing this into the ground. Remember the pause and spinning on yesterday's show? I was showing you Jasmine Crockett and AOC. Both were saying this is fascist. Really, pausing, spinning is fascist. Anything we do is going to be called fascist. Oh, I went to the bathroom on the news break. That's fascist. But on this one, that's fascist. There's people who are coming from the same community that chants death to America just for funsies in their homeland. People who are supporting and cheering on Hamas, a designated terrorist group who has in their charter the destruction of Israel, like a literal pro-genocide group over here. And we're the fascists? We're Nazis? Wait, we're Nazis. You support the group that wants to wipe out the Jews, but we're the Nazis. They don't see that. They don't have to see that. You and I both know that that is not a person who we need to bump to the front of the line and be an immigrant. There are millions of people on waiting list right now to get in this country who don't hate us, who don't chant death to America, who don't run around flying the flags of Hamas and cheering on the genocide of our Jewish brothers all across the globe. How about we put one of them instead of this guy? So not only is this the right thing to do, I really have a hard time understanding the pushback. Because if you think it is a good idea to import people to America who think America is evil, you should really kind of reevaluate your entire worldview, maybe your entire life. You don't import people to a country that want to destroy the country and be like, no, they'll be fine. They'll be great immigrants. No. What level of self-loathing masochism is this? Death to America? You want to bring the death to America people to America? Would you invite a Klansman to join the NAACP? That's about the same damn thing. Klansmen, what do they want to do? They want to wipe out all the people who are in this group that is asking them to join? No, that doesn't make any sense. It's a perfect metaphor for what's going on here. Would you invite a Nazi to join your local synagogue? All right, let's not get so serious. Let's make fun of me for a second. This is like asking me to join the board of DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, the public transportation system. If this is the first time you're hearing the James Show, just know that I hate DART with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns. I want to end it all. I want to sell all the buses back to private companies. I want to rip up all the train tracks, and I want to write a public apology to the taxpayers of the 13 sucker cities that have been forced to fund this thing for, 30 years? It's all been a huge, embarrassing failure and quite annoying on top of that. Would you ask me to run DART? Because that's the same thing, asking the Death to America people, hey, come over here. Let's educate you in our best schools, and then we'll give you permanent citizenship, and you can calcify your Death to America stance within our own society. What could possibly go wrong? That's like saying, hey, let's take a whole bunch of pyromaniacs, and we'll go put them in the Hollywood Hills just for funsies, see what happens. This is like if you go up the street here, Papa's Barbecue. What was that, at Northwest Highway in Stemmons? Would they hire a PETA activist? Because this is what we're looking at. No, no. So I please, I know I don't get as many awesome negative calls as Casey does. But if you are a person that thinks the people who were at the pro-Hamas rallies shouldn't have their student visa revoked, explain to me like I'm a child, or explain to me like maybe an 8th grade level. Just keep it real simple so we can all understand, because I don't even see how anybody pushes back against this. Did you see the cell phone videos of the Hamas terrorists parachuting in to a music festival where unarmed children were there gathering, partying, clearly peaceful, not bothering anybody? And they just go on a murder spree, kidnapping spree, raping spree. This is the people you support? Look, you're free to have your own opinion. I believe in free speech, but you can go have your free speech back wherever you came from. You can go have your, and if you're American citizens and you're on that side, maybe you should look into going with them. Maybe we'll do some swaps here. Maybe if you hate America so much, we'll get rid of you and we'll just scoot up the next legal immigrant that's in the waiting list right now, doing the right thing, loving this country, wanting to come here because they know it's the best place human society has ever created. Death to America. Get out of here. If that didn't get you kicked out of the country, then you're not really trying. I mean, there's some sort of weird auto-genocide going on. Between that and discouraging family formations and encouraging abortions and all kinds of other, deviant lifestyles that don't reproduce. And it's like, are you trying to kill yourself off? Coming up next, we're going to go revisit something we talked about a few months ago. Just north of town, outside of McKinney, they're talking about building a gigantic Church of Latter-day Saints cathedral, Mormon cathedral, and Fairview's still blocking them. I'll get you all caught up on that. We'll talk to Melissa McNeely with the Dallas East Coordinating Council, the LDS Church, coming up next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All-day listeners are probably familiar with this story, but if this is new to you, here's the short version. Mormons want to build a awesome, gigantic temple in Fairview, and Fairview says no. We talked about it. Feels like 6 months ago. I lose track of time, but this has been going on for a while. And my next guest is going to get us all caught up because, look, I'm not in the LDS. I'm not a Latter-day Saint, but you want to build a temple? What's the problem with that? But hey, I have some shortcomings. I don't get half of these things where people have a problem, like, oh, they're trying to build an Italian restaurant 2 blocks over from my house. I can't stand that. Why not? Melissa McNeely. She is communications director with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Welcome back to the James Show. What's the excuse that they're putting out there for not allowing y'all to build a temple in Fairview?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And honestly, I can't really answer ultimately for the opposition. You would have to talk to them. But the reasons that I've heard often repeated are concerns over lighting and traffic and the size of the building. But in good faith, back in November, we met and addressed all these in a reasonable way through mediation with town leaders. And the leaders agreed to a compromise of a much more scaled down version of our temple. But right now they seem to be waffling on that decision. And we are still very much willing to build what was agreed upon in the mediation if the town will support it.
Well, are y'all violating some code by making it too big? Like, was there some existing zoning restriction that said it can't be over 100 feet tall or something to that effect?
No, there absolutely are zoning laws within the town. However, state and federal protection of religious freedom laws supersede town building ordinances.
So legally speaking, you should be able to build this thing as tall as you want.
Legally speaking, yes.
So what levers of power have they been able to use against you to stop you?
Well, they did vote down the proposal for the initial building back in August, a building that was about 45,000 square feet with a spire that reached 174 feet tall, which I will say is a medium-sized temple for our faith. And I want to clarify for your listeners that temples and our meeting houses are two very different buildings. Churches are where we congregate on Sunday and worship, but temples are a step above. They are sacred houses of the Lord, and they are where we perform our most sacred ordinances and ceremonies of our faith. And so they are more special. And our desire is to build one of these temples also in Fairview.
Melissa, are y'all being treated different than any other religious groups? There's not like a Catholic church down the road with a tall temple and they got away with it, is there?
So that's a good question. We are trying to build this temple in an appropriate place in the town of Fairview. It's being built in an area commonly known as Church Row. There is Chase Oaks Church and a chapel of our faith that will be right next to this temple, and a Church of Christ is going to be built on the corner. So it seems that the town has been welcoming to religious institutions in the past.
Yeah, well, on one hand, maybe there is a religious angle to this, but on the other hand, I've seen, especially up there in the northern exurbs, they just like to stop development. What's the other town? Princeton says no new residential permits until we can get some of this infrastructure caught up, and they just keep renewing it and renewing it. So there's just some weird authoritarian streak of people that just don't like development, I guess.
That may be, but I just want to reiterate how much our church needs this temple to be built. We need another temple to accommodate the growth of our church, which has tracked right along with the growth of DFW. We currently have one functioning temple in DFW, and it's 40 years old. So it was built to accommodate some growth in the 80s.
I'm older than that.
Right, but DFW, and especially up north, is growing rapidly. DFW has quadrupled in size, and we still have one functioning temple. So we really need a temple. The initial proposed temple is what our faith needs. It needs to accommodate growth, and it needs to accommodate our members right now who want to be able to go and worship.
Well, I mean, Fairview is not that big of a town. There's some other options. Can't y'all just reach out and say, like, hey, Prosper or Frisco or Little Elm or something? Can't you go somewhere where they will embrace you?
So I don't know that that's really the question at hand. I think the question at hand is this is land that we own, and we would like to be able to build our temple.
Yeah.
And there really is no reason that we can't. They claim that it is zoned residential. Yes, it is zoned residential. It is zoned for 1 and 2 acre homes. However, I will note that along Stacy Road is a 50-mile-an-hour road. It is across the street from a strip mall, and it is going to be between 3 churches. It is a prime place for a house of worship.
I hope y'all get to build this thing. Look, I'm not a Mormon myself. Don't agree with, some of the religious views. But when the Mormons move into your neighborhood, it's not like everything goes to hell. You guys aren't known for litter or crime or degrading a neighborhood. I mean, has anyone ever had problems with the Mormon community?
No, not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In every community, our temples are beautiful additions. They are well maintained. They are well built. We use very high quality craftsmanship in building them. It's really important for us to be good neighbors. And that's why we were willing to pause in this process and listen to the concerns of the residents and participate in a mediation, which resulted in a very scaled down version of the temple. It's not the temple that the growth in our population needs, but it's important to be considerate of the residents and to try to find a compromise that would still allow us to be welcome in the town of Fairview.
How many kids you got?
I have 4.
Me too. I'm just a regular old Baptist. I just like having kids. Now, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I am the oldest of 4.
Oh, okay. Well, most of the Mormons I grew up with, they were aiming for at least 6 kids.
I think my family is perfect for me.
Yeah. Well, I like that. That's one thing I really like about the Mormons is how y'all have a ton of kids, like 6, 7, 8 kids. I thought that was great. And seeing as how we're kind of in a deficit, we're not keeping up. Our birth rate was the word I was trying to think of. We're kind of behind on our birth rate. We're going to be contracting if we don't re-embrace big families again. But you know what? Good luck with all that, Melissa.
Thank you.
I'm kind of on your side on this one. So, I hope y'all all convert to Baptist tomorrow. But other than that, I hope you get to build your temple. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the time. Have a good day.
Why do I have to defend the Mormons? No one else will say nice things about them. What are they going to do? Believe me, you want them moving into your neighborhood. Property value is probably going to go up if they do. And you don't have to go to the temple. They're not doing anything weird in there. They're not like sacrificing goats that I know of. Can I squeeze this in, Garrett? Look how nice Garrett's being. Jason in Waco, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts on the Mormon temple proposed for Fairview?
It's not so much. My question is it a safety issue because the fire department doesn't have a fire truck that would be able to put out a fire that tall up, like a ladder truck?
I don't think that's one of the excuses, but even if that is, that shouldn't stop them. The city of Fairview can say, y'all might want to have like some extra sprinkler systems or some sort of water pump because we can't service that with our existing trucks. But I don't think that should stop them from building that.
But I think that's part of the issue is a safety issue because there's some of the towns that I live around.
Right, but that's a thinly veiled excuse for someone in a city council to seize power over whether or not something gets built. And look, listen, Mormons, if you want to take one piece of advice, Jason would probably agree with me. You're just not bribing the right people, or you're probably too good at not bribing anyone at all. You're
not greasing the right palms.
I know, right? Can y'all stop being so moral and upstanding citizens and just get it done? Just an envelope full of cash does wonders. 800-288-9227. Thank you, Jason in Waco, for keeping that short. Do you have a problem with the gigantic Mormon temple being built in Fairview? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. A giant, I'll admit, it's a big old building's being proposed as a new Mormon temple up in Fairview, and Fairview keeps blocking it over and over. And look, generally speaking, I don't like any time people are blocking big developments. I mean, it has to be something extreme, like are you building a lead smelting plant next to an elementary school or something like that? But I really, all of the complaints about this, they ring hollow to me. I really don't get why so many people want to block this. Robert adds on Facebook, he says, the LDS is currently building a temple in Burleson, just south of Fort Worth. Okay, well, good for them. Maybe they can get another one in Fairview. Maybe they can build 1,000 of them. Why do you care? Why does anyone care? Someone can try and explain it to me, because I admit I have some holes in my rationale sometime. Lewis in Dallas, your thoughts on the Mormon temple in Fairview?
When they classify something a temple, the Mormons build it huge.
Okay.
It overwhelms everything around it.
What's wrong with that?
That's the problem. Well,
why is that a
if you
problem?
look behind it, you can't see anything but that. If you've got houses behind it, and it dwarfs the other churches, and it actually, if you're looking at things, most people like things in their neighborhood that fall in a certain parameter. All the churches are the same.
Okay, but if we followed that rule, then we wouldn't be allowed to build tall buildings anywhere but the middle of nowhere. There wouldn't be a downtown Dallas. There wouldn't be an Empire State Building. There wouldn't be the whatever the Sears Tower is now called, the Hancock Building or whatever. That would be an impediment to almost all tall buildings everywhere in DFW.
Try to build one in Fairview. Try to build a Sears Tower or something like that in Fairview. It'll never happen.
Well, it should.
People who live there don't want to deal with something that's that massive.
No, some of the people, probably a very vocal minority, have a problem with it.
But see, there are areas around here where Amazon can't build one of their warehouses. They're usually only like the equivalent of 3 stories high.
Well, if they're not blocking people off, they're just going to come up with whatever excuse they can to control who gets to build what there, and especially if it's a big special interest, a big money project with deep pockets, someone's just waiting to get paid off, or someone's being a jerk on behalf of one of their other donors.
No, the other side of it is if you build it the same size as the other churches, then nobody could really say anything. You take their ammunition away. When it's, look, we're going to build it the same size as everybody else around here, so we'll make it bigger, we'll make it wider, we'll make it longer, but we won't make it taller.
Listen, I feel like I'm missing a gene here. You say that like that's supposed to change my mind. That doesn't, like, none of this affects me the way it affects some other people. And I don't know if this is a majority or a minority of people, but if you have a house that's like a block away and now this it enters your view of the sunset in Fairview, so what? That doesn't make me care one bit.
Okay. You've also got an area of Dallas that the zoning is for 1- and 2-story single-family homes. And these people went in there, and Dallas dropped the ball and didn't back up their zoning. And they went in there and built those, and now they're stuck with them because the people in the neighborhood said, no, Dallas has agreed that that's not allowed.
Built what?
There's a big fight going on about that because
apartment buildings or just right.
They're built in duplexes in an area where duplexes weren't supposed to be allowed.
See, that's another one where I just go, whoop-de-doo, so what? Look, the guys who own the property know better than a bunch of pencil necks, people in the city council on what would be more profitable where, what is in demand where, because, they're actually investing millions of their dollars in doing their own market research and coming up with the idea that there's a demand for this. This would be more profitable than building a single-family home. If that really was what the whole world wanted, then they would acquiesce to the market, and you wouldn't need the coercion of zoning force. But no, none of this bothers me. And part of this, I feel like I have a short circuit because other people say this. They're like, well, that's not what it's zoned for. Who cares? That doesn't make it right. That just means the city council needs to look. Zoning laws are pretty silly to begin with. Kind of running out of time here, though. I really appreciate your call, though, Lewis in Dallas. I appreciate you trying to explain it to me. I really feel like I'm a hardhead and he's making some points and I just don't get it. Like, what am I missing here? Convince me that just because you live, within eyesight of another property, you get to control how big the thing is they build on it. Because if you did that, you would stifle all tall buildings everywhere, unless you went out to like the middle of where they just filmed Landman to build a 50-story building or a Mormon temple. No, not everyone within eyesight of your property gets a veto over what you can and can build over your own property. And I think it really is that simple. But here we are. They're still blocked, aren't they? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I really feel like I'm missing something. Can someone please explain it to me? Coming up next, Victoria Churchill from Young Voices. We're going to talk about what's going on in D.C. next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. So there's a Mormon temple proposed for Fairview. Fairview blocked it a few months ago. Now it's still blocked, and I don't want to be the hardhead that just doesn't understand. But people, like when people say things, you can put an inflection on it that implies like, you agree, right? And no, I don't. No, I don't. People say, well, you know, that's gonna be real tall. So what? Well, they can't build it there because it's too big. What? Why does that matter? Explain to me why that matters. Well, some people might be able to see it from their yard. Okay. What? So what? That doesn't. I don't get it. I don't get that. None of that. Like I wouldn't even say that as like a devil's advocate. Like well, you still don't have control over what other people can do with their property. But here we are, a whole phone bank of people probably all going to tell me I'm wrong. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Let's try Terry. Terry and Allen, you're next up on WBAP. Why am I wrong?
Yes, sir. There are people who buy property in a certain area with the intention that that property is going to be zoned a certain way. It's called zoning, planning and zoning. And we got the Planning and Zoning Commission are charged with the responsibility of enforcing these zoning laws, such as maybe they don't want a strip club next to a school, don't want a bar next to a school. You might live in an area where you don't mind it, no matter what the property is zoned for. Some people may not believe in zoning.
I don't.
But there are planning and zoning commissions, and there are zoning laws in various communities, and those planning and zoning commissions are charged with enforcing those zoning laws.
Yeah, none of that worked on me. Because what you're saying is there's this thing that you don't believe in and you don't understand, but there's a whole commission that thinks that way, and they all agree on it. So that's why you're wrong. No, that doesn't explain why I'm wrong.
Okay, well, I think if you would check into it, you'd find that most communities in the Dallas area have planning and zoning commissions.
Oh no, I'm well aware of that. Everyone knows there's planning and zoning. There's planning and zoning commissions. I'm still talking on. Maybe I'm just talking on too much of a philosophical level. Just because you own a rectangle of property that is within eyesight of another rectangle of property doesn't mean you get a say so on what this other person can do with their own private land. You can come up with a commission to force, like your conduit for coercion on how other people deal with their own private property, but that doesn't make it right.
Okay, well, that's your opinion, but you can move to a place that doesn't have any zoning restrictions.
Wait.
If that's the way you feel.
That's kind of my position. If you don't like the temple in Fairview, you can move. If that's really going to disrupt your life so damn bad, you can move. And if you don't want to be next to a tall building, maybe you shouldn't live in a metropolitan area of 7 million people. Maybe you should go like a little further out, because there's plenty of places. Drive from here to Lubbock. You'll find plenty of places where you're not going to see another building within eyesight. And you can have a whole unfettered view of every sunrise and every sunset and every rolling hill going across to the horizon.
But people have purchased the property years ago,
right?
With the understanding and the idea that the property was going to be used for certain purposes,
right,
based on that zoning law.
Okay.
And now
so
here we come and build great, huge.
I know. You're still running into the same problem. Just because you have a rectangle of property that is within eyesight of someone else's rectangle of property, it doesn't matter if you've been there for a long time. Now you get a say-so over what they do. No, philosophically speaking, no. That's like a violation of your private property rights. I can't tell you what to do with your property. You can't tell me to do what to do with mine. And I know there's some other people.
Zoning laws.
I know there's zoning. You can keep repeating that, but that doesn't make it philosophically correct. Hey, how about I just go look and look? Let's not make it some abstract.
Changed.
Terry, What if I wanted to come up and slap you in the face? And you said, no, that's a violation of my individual rights. That's an aggression. That's an act of coercion, an act of force against me. But what if I said, but Terry, you're standing in a slapping zone. There is a commission, and we've all agreed on it, that if Terry walks in here, James gets to slap him in the face. I get to violate your private property. I get to violate your space. I get to use force or coercion against you. Look, and all cities have these zoning laws, and they have these commissions, and they all agreed on it, and 51% of the people said that Terry can get slapped in the face. That doesn't make it morally correct. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it ethical. It doesn't make it philosophically correct. It doesn't make it constitutional. Does that make more sense?
No, it
All right, well, I'll go to someone else then. Melissa in Fort Worth, you're next up on the James Show. Are you going to tell me why I'm wrong too?
No, actually, I'm a Latter-day Saint, and I know that our church actually worked with the zoning commission and tried to make the temple smaller to fit it more.
Y'all shouldn't have done that. Y'all should just stand on principle and then sue them into oblivion.
Well, what's going on is they are now doing that. They did go back. They withdrew since the commission decided that they were going to violate the argument they made.
Yep.
They are now suing the daylights out.
Good.
Of them.
So, Melissa, look, I know y'all. I've known a lot of Mormons. Like, I know about the wards. I know about the underwear. Y'all are just too good of people. Y'all need to start bribing people. You need envelopes of cash, and you just need to get it into the right hands. Y'all need to stop being so good, because I think that's all this is someone's just waiting to get greased. Someone needs a new boat.
How about I bribe them with the fact that it's well manicured land, it's well taken care of, the buildings are beautiful, there's not a lot of traffic, it's not like a mega church on Sundays, it's small amounts of traffic coming in.
All right. We already agree, so you're no fun. Melissa, good luck to all of y'all. Really, I'm trying to get through to some of these people for you. I hope I'm helping more than I'm hurting your cause. Kyle and Van Alstine, you're on the James Show. What do you think?
Yep. Yes, sir. So I moved further out from a city just because of an HOA and the rules and regulations they have, because I believe that helps maintain the property value. I just went and paid property taxes today, and they're quite expensive. And, I pay that in belief that I'm getting a certain amount of services. And, I understand that there's restrictions. I can't have anything over the height of my fence in my backyard.
God, I hate HOAs.
Right. I know.
And zoning commissions are just bigger HOAs with more power.
Yep. I know. I get it. But they maintain property value, and for all the people in that area, they maintain just a community sense. Like, I used to live in Houston, and literally you had just a shade tree kind of auto shop, fix-it, place next to a church, next to a house, it was just...
Houston has some of the most gloriously lax zoning laws of any major American city, and they get by just fine. And I lived in New Orleans for a few years.
I don't know if they get by just fine. I wouldn't want to live there.
Well,
it's a terrible place to live.
If you make a lot of money, you want to live there.
Yeah.
Hang on.
New York City, too. I get it.
Sure. I got to run, though. I appreciate that. Now, and when I lived in New Orleans, they have terrible zoning laws, but they grandfathered everything in. So there are neighborhoods where, it's all single-family homes, but on the corner, there's a home, but it's a store. You can walk in. It's like a 7-Eleven. It looks like a home. There's a lot of those, and they always put them on the corner, and they always have a diagonal door, so it's not a house. It's actually a store. And they found a way to blend in the community, and you have a mix of residential and commercial and auto shops, like he mentioned, right next to a restaurant. 800-288-9227 if you want to chime in on the proposed Mormon temple in Fairview. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My next guest, Victoria Churchill, coming back on the James Show. First off, welcome back. What you doing these days? I know you've had some that temporary job with the following the campaign trail or the swing state team. Wasn't that you?
Yes, that was me. And of course, we called in, gosh, I think you had me on your show like every other week or something during the campaign. So, yeah, that was very fun.
But you're not on the swing state team anymore. So what's Victoria Churchill doing now?
I am actually starting a new job next week, so stay tuned for that. That'll be exciting. But I'll be based in D.C. covering national politics. So that's exciting. And then, still with Young Voices doing commentary, calling into shows like yours all the time. So it's an exciting time.
All right, great. So you're my D.C. watchman. Tell me how your take on the confirmation hearings this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there was definitely some good progress made. Obviously, the confirmation of a lot of folks like, obviously we saw the hearings with Kelly Loeffler, but obviously we got some folks in the door. We got Pete Hegseth. He was all over everywhere today following that plane crash that happened at DCA last night. So, he's already on the job. So is Sean Duffy. So, compared to the last Trump administration, these confirmations are moving fast. And so I think that means good things for the American people. And I think that means good things for the president's agenda as well.
Well, let's talk about the first legislation that is signed in the Trump 2.0 administration, the Laken Riley Act. Is this a big victory or is this just more of a virtue signal?
I mean, I think it is a big victory. This is something he talked about on the campaign trail quite a bit. And then also the fact that he got some Democrats to vote for it, I think just shows how much of a big issue this is to the American people. Obviously, again, which they showed, I think, during the election. But the fact that their representatives, even the Democrats, are listening, I think that's a big sign. I think that's a sign that we can move forward as a country with getting some of these folks out.
Is everyone nominated going to get through the Senate confirmation process?
Well, the big question mark, I think, right now is RFK Jr. Obviously, he had his hearing earlier this week, so we'll see how that goes. But, I think there's definitely going to be some pushback, both among Republicans and among Democrats, so he might squeak by. It was interesting, actually, with the nominations last week. J.D. Vance said he was like, I thought I was done voting in the Senate, but he had to go back and vote on one of those confirmations. So we'll see if they have to call him up again or if they can make do without him.
Yeah, he was a tie-breaking vote. What about Kash Patel? He seems to be the next big name, and he's going through it right now, sparring on Capitol Hill. Will he get through as FBI director?
That's definitely the big question. I definitely don't expect any Democrats to vote for him, but, you never know. You could get a few surprises in there. But, yeah, among the Republicans, of course, the ones to watch are going to be your typical ones, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, folks like that, have bucked their party in the past. But then as well, I think some interesting ones are going to be actually a few of these senators that we have up in the next election in 2026. They have, these were senators that were then elected. Their previous election was in 2020. So a lot of them, they won despite Trump being on the ballot and, losing, obviously, the election nationwide. And so some of them don't feel that kind of loyalty to Trump as others may, anybody that got in this year or maybe even the last time that he was, running and kind of since then. So this class, I think it could be potentially problematic for him because, again, I think these folks don't feel like they have that direct loyalty to Trump that I think so many others feel like they do. Either they got in on his coattails or with his endorsement.
I hear you. All right, Victoria Churchill from Young Voices, thanks for the D.C. update. Let us know when you can announce your new job publicly. I'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you so much, and chat soon.
Thank you, Victoria from D.C. Let's go to Brandon. Oh, Brandon in Fairview. So we're back on this thing. Let's do it. Brandon in Fairview. Talking about, I guess, the Mormon temple that's being blocked in Fairview. How am I wrong, Brandon?
Well, one part I agree with you. If you don't like it, just move. We lived in McKinney, and they built a bunch of apartment complexes right by our house. We didn't like it, so we moved. So when we moved to Fairview, most of it's 2-acre lots plus, very country feel. So, I mean, if the church doesn't like it, why don't they just move it to a different location where they're allowed to have the huge 3 or 4 story steeple for their church?
Because they already own that land and they should be able to build on it.
Oh, they just purchased the land. It's not something they've owned forever.
All right.
They
So,
purchased
well,
the
what is
land
the
with
seasoning
expecting to
period
pay.
before you have your full complement of rights on what you can do with your own property? How long you have to own it?
Well, that's the deal. If you move into an area, you check to see what your zoning and commissioning is. You're not going to move to an area unless you're out in the country that doesn't have a zoning and commissioning.
Right. But you see, we have a zoning and commissioning board that violates the just principles that you can do with your private property, whatever you want to do with it, as long as you're not negatively affecting someone else. And by negatively affecting someone else, I don't mean they can see it from their yard. So, Brandon, it's not a very convincing argument.
Yes. Well, and you did say it was maybe a small minority of people that were against it, and most of us did vote against it.
Well, now you have the violation of people's private property by committee.
That would probably be right.
All right. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it, Brandon. I'll admit, I feel like I might be wrong on this, and I'm just like missing the joke. Like it's just going over my head. I'm giving you all a chance to explain it, though. Coming up next, Dr. Fahmi Faraz coming back on the show. She's a cardiologist. There was a weird study that shows children from divorced parents have a higher risk of stroke. So, like the old staying together for the kids. Staying together so they don't stroke out. Is that what we're doing now? That doesn't sound right, but I'll ask a doctor about it coming up next. Also, a reminder, the James Show will be live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo tomorrow at the exhibit hall next to Dickies Arena. If you're already going to be out there, stop by, say hi. I'd love to see you. And we'll be right back with Dr. Fahmi Faraz next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Come on out tomorrow. I'll be at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, live doing the show from a booth in the exhibit hall from 2 to 5, so you can come on out, say hi, see what I look like in a Pearl Snap shirt, and judge me based on my appearance. You ever read a study and you're like, that can't be true? Come on. Well, I do that too, except I have a radio show, so I can invite guests on to try and explain some of this to me. So I got my doctor friend, Dr. Fahmy Farah, back on. And as a cardiologist, is this for real? A new study shows that children from divorced parents have a higher risk of stroke. Explain this one to me.
Yeah, there certainly can be a correlation. I was looking at the study, and it's very striking, actually. It says that people whose parents have had a divorce before the age of 18 are 2/3 more likely to have a stroke. And some of the common correlations could be that, yes, children who have experienced a divorce of their parents, it's a very traumatic experience, and it changes the course of life. And so, that stress, that trauma, and how that courses the rest of their lives, how healthy of a lifestyle they live, all of those factors probably contribute to those statistics.
Well, what about how much of this is medical and how much of this is more social? Because we see the other statistics, like children from divorced parents are like 30 times more likely to end up in prison and 12 times more likely to develop some sort of addiction. So it's not really the divorce itself. It's the lifestyle that happens to be more commonly found in that community.
Oh, absolutely. I do agree with that. It's not the divorce itself, but the effects that the divorce may lead to for these children in terms of like the socioeconomic impact, for example. That's huge in terms of what kind of access they have to healthy food, for example. Usually in a divorce, the finance gets affected, which parent is getting the kid, and so what kind of care are they getting? So the social impact is really big in terms of how much it's contributing to their risk factors.
So I also liked in this study that they excluded participants who were exposed to sexual or physical abuse, which is more likely to happen in a divorced household setting, and that level of trauma can have its own bag of problems that come along with it. So even excluding those people, there was a 61% difference.
That is correct. Yes. I do I'm with you on that one. They tried to get rid of as many confounding factors as possible to really have more of a controlled data. And to the best of their knowledge, 61% is huge. And so it's not a surprise, to be honest with you, because, common sense and also what we see in our society when parents separate, the impact really, a lot of it goes to the children because the whole dynamic of their living situation can change. A lot of times access to care, access to healthy food, all of that gets impacted. Also, behavioral changes can take place as well in terms of how, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all of that can contribute to these statistics as well.
Is the difference big enough that doctors should start asking as part of their, regular battery of questions, did you grow up in a divorced household?
I'm not opposed to that, especially for one of the key things that really caught my attention is that they had an age predictor, like they said, before the age of 18. So that's key here because that means that early adolescent period matters in terms of how they're shaping their behavior. So I think as pediatricians and primary care providers, this is more of a screening for them to begin early so that they can help shape their behavior and guide them towards healthier choices. And perhaps that can make a huge impact in reducing such bad stats.
Well, yeah, you're kind of stepping on my next question because Dr. Farah, if there's people out there who are thinking, oh my goodness, my parents were divorced when I was growing up, what do I need to do to sort of mitigate the risk? You're going to tell them something not fun, probably diet and exercise.
You got me.
Yeah, that right. And no one likes to hear that, but that's the answer for so many of these issues. You want to have fewer strokes, you want to have fewer heart attacks, you want to lose weight, without having to take Ozempic poison or whatever it is. Diet and exercise. People just hate that though.
Well, those have, they do help millions of people out there. So I do think there's great utility for those. But, going back to that behavioral element, like mental health, I think plays a huge role in all cardiovascular disease processes, particularly things like stroke. So think about these, young adults or early adolescents who go through such a traumatic event. A lot of times they can turn to things like smoking. They can pick up bad habits like smoking, drugs, alcohol, and those can also have a really big impact in risk factors and causing them to have stroke.
So you're a cardiologist. Do you do cardio?
I do.
What do you do?
I dance.
Dance? That counts as cardio from a cardiologist. You heard it here first, y'all. You can just go out there and cut a rug, and all of a sudden you're healthy for real. Is that what you do for your cardio?
I do. Dance is a great cardio, and it's also, it's a huge stress relief. So for me, that's a great source of exercise.
Like, what are we talking about here? Are we talking like Soul Train or ballet, or is this like a spin class? What do you dance for exercise?
Well, I do Latin dancing, and I did it not professionally, but pretty seriously for some time. Last year, it was December 2023, I competed nationally, and I did get first place. So I do it pretty seriously.
What genre was this? Swing dancing or Lindy Hop? What was it?
I competed in two different genres. One was rhythm, and the other was just social. So under rhythm was cha-cha. So cha-cha-cha, and then rumba. Under social, I did salsa, bachata, so all that fun stuff.
Okay. I did not see that coming. There you go, Doctor.
And tango, Argentine tango.
And tango?
Argentine tango, yes.
Okay. All right. I did not see all this Latin American influence coming from Fami Farah, so pleasantly surprised there. And look, that's coming from a cardiologist. It's not just some guy making up stuff from the radio. Dancing can save your life or extend your life. Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Fami Farah, cardiologist, so it's not just me. Maybe you should go dancing this weekend, right? What do you want to do? Have a stroke? Coming up next, should you be kicked out of a Tarrant County Commissioner's Court meeting for dropping an F-bomb? Because that's what happened. And we're trying to get the guy on the show. We might get him on tomorrow or Monday. But he's a lawyer who's also a political activist. You'll hear the audio coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. You ever get suspicious? You ever just hear some audio? And maybe we've just watched too many M. Night Shyamalan movies or whatever, but tell me if this doesn't get your spidey sense tingling. There's an activist in Texas. He's a lawyer by trade. He's based out of Temple, but he's popped up in some of the stories that you've heard across WBAP over the last few years. And I see the deal is I think he was at this commissioner court meeting to talk about a friend of his that was killed unjustly while in custody, but we never got to the bottom of his story because he got kicked out. He drops an F-bomb. Now, this is a Tarrant County Commissioner meeting. You know, this wasn't at like the local pool hall. This was in an official situation where he's at the podium and you got the commissioners sitting at the curved desk up front with the microphones and whatnot. But he drops an F-bomb and very casually just falls out like he's Dave Chappelle or Bill Burr. And he tries to keep going, but he's shut off right after that. Now, listen, C.J. Grisham, Tarrant County Commissioner meeting.
I came here last time because my good friend Mason Yancey was murdered in the jail. All right, that's why I meant to come here, but you didn't hear from me. The reason you didn't hear from me is because the thugs you have outside the door there assaulted me, threw me in handcuffs for no reason whatsoever, and tried to arrest me. Thankfully, Sheriff Wayborn thought the better of valor and listened to me when I told him to read the law. Now,
remove him immediately for that comment. Get him out of here.
Excuse me, that's protected speech.
Yeah, it's not going to be protected in this courtroom.
If it's protected speech.
This is the problem right here. Let me get my stuff. What the hell's wrong with you people? You're in my way. Let me get my stuff. And Chief Driscoll here needs to be fired.
Mr. Cradaville, is it indeed protected speech?
Yes, it is. I've got the case law right here.
Mr. Cradaville.
Commissioner, I would say that would be appropriate for me to give legal advice and close on that.
I'm sorry.
I would.
I think it's protected speech.
Well, I believe our policy says you don't allow it.
What policy?
The one just passed and the one before it. So, Mr. Hermes is not present.
What did you just say? What? In response to my question, I couldn't hear you.
It's a more nuanced question than simply me making a ball or strike call at this moment. I would say that so long as the action is in compliance with the court's policy, that's what we should defer to at the moment.
So the court's policy supersedes freedom of speech,
no.
Constitution? Okay. But you'll look into it.
Okay, so I don't know all the players involved here. Forgive me, I don't keep up with anybody's commissioner court meetings in any county whatsoever. But the suspicious guy, I believe his name is Tim O'Hare. He's the guy that shut him down at the first excuse. C.J. Grisham, get him out of here. That's pretty suspicious, right? And the lady that's sitting to him, you heard her. She's sitting right to his right. She's on the commission too. She actually sounded like the reasonable one. Is that against the rules? Is that really grounds for dismissal? That's not protected speech. And there must be some lawyer or some counselor for the commission that they were talking to who's not sitting at the desk. And so this guy that they were leaning on, she was not ready to kick him out immediately. She's like, hang on, that's a lawyer. The C.J. Grisham, the guy they're kicking out, he's not making, I mean, he might be making stuff up. Let's at least find out. Is he making this up? Is that protected speech? Tim didn't care. Tim didn't want the answer to that. He just wanted him out. So what does that tell you and me? Tim's trying to hide something. C.J.'s about to say, C.J. Grisham, my guess is C.J. Grisham is about to say something that will rock Tim O'Hare's world. Now, I don't know. This is speculation. This is conjecture. But when you do something sketchy like that, it's a pretty reasonable assumption that you got something to hide. Just because some guy dropped an F-bomb. And he wasn't malicious. He wasn't saying, bleep you, Tim O'Hare. He was saying that the people who arrested him last time need to read the bleeping law. He's not insulting anyone. It's not a threat. I didn't think it was even especially out of pocket. Now, if they have some sort of rule against dropping F-bombs in the commissioner court meeting, maybe he should just get a warning. But do you have to physically remove him immediately, not hear the rest of his case? What are you scared of? That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like some guy's like, well, rules are rules, and I sure would like to hear what you were going to say, but we just can't continue with F-bombs flying all over the place. That doesn't sound right. Again, we don't have to have concrete, irrefutable, beyond the shadow of a doubt evidence to notice something sketchy going on. You did too. I did. So we're going to try and get CJ Grisham on the show. In fact, I saw Garrett talking to him earlier. We're going to try and get this guy on. What are you guys hiding? Now I want to know. If you would have just let him talk, the James Show would have never cared. Now we do. And I'm just the type of nosy little brother butthead that's going to try and figure this out for you. Maybe I'll have an answer for you tomorrow or on Monday's show. Probably the more likely scenario. But hey, way to go. You kicking him out real fast. A little bit of extra reporting here from currentrevolt.com. And now I got to know. And I'll tell you too. So stick around. Coming up, Mark Levin's next. And then don't forget, tomorrow I will be live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo from 2 to 5 in the exhibit hall. So please feel free, come on by, see me, say hi, and then we can just be best friends after that. Maybe get a corn dog. Jason Aldean is coming to town August 14th. Special guest Nate Smith, Ray Lynn, and DJ Silver. For tickets and information, you can go to livenation.com. It's one of the contests we have running right now. You can take our phone number that you call in just to regularly call the show. Right now, text the word Jason to that number, 800-288-9227. You'll be entered in the contest for a chance to win a pair of tickets to go see Jason Aldean August 14th, Dos Equis Pavilion. Text Jason to 800-288-9227. All right, thank you very much for hanging out with the James Show. Please tell someone about my big show. If you see me on social media, like, follow, share. And if you need more of me in the meantime, go find the James Show podcast wherever you're listening to podcasts already. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.